Hi, everybody. My name is Annie. I think I met most of you at PTL as it happened a month or so ago. But I am honestly still riding high from that event. It was so incredible. And just such kudos to Taylor for building this community, for building an event where not only I think was everybody just real hype because of how many incredible women were in the room, but there were so many takeaways and so many learnings, so many conversations that happened at that event. So one thing that I really wanted to do as a way to continue to help and serve this community was provide sort of a custom demo, custom overview conversation from the PTL perspective and all of the incredible women that I had the chance to meet and share a little bit more about Dubsado. So I know we've got Taylor here. Looks like we just had Carrie LaRose join us, which is so exciting. So welcome, Carrie. We're just kicking things off, so perfect timing. So I wanted to kind of first start and hear from all of the folks that have joined us here. Is there something specific that really inspired you to join this call? Like, do you have any specific wants, needs, questions, dreams? I just want to get a sense of what brought everybody here today. And then, luckily, we've got a really great, intimate group. We're going to have time to answer absolutely every question you could possibly have. But I'd love to hear if you want to drop it in chat. Like, what inspired you to join today? What is like the peak of your curiosity about Dubsado? And we'll make sure that we can tend to that. So to get started is maybe fingers are typing. I know Taylor shared a little bit about just what it's like to have to do so many manual steps in speaker applications and sponsor applications. And so that's something that we'll be able to, that we'll really be able to dig into. Um, Creating proposals takes so much time, Taylor. Yes, honestly, that was one of the biggest things that I heard when we were talking to folks at the booth is proposals, building those from scratch, how to get them out. And sometimes I know the tension with service providers between we do have custom proposals, we do have custom services that we offer, but gosh, I don't want to have to build this proposal from scratch for everything. So how do we find that balance? I think that's a really big one. Carrie, if you have something specific, you're welcome to share that as well in the chat, and we'll definitely make sure that we can address that. But I'm so excited to have you all here. For everybody that's watching this recording after, welcome. I'm so pumped to have you here. So I'm really excited to introduce a member of my team, Joey. So this is Joey. He is the onboarding specialist here at Dubsado. He's on my team, and he is really and truly the expert in how to use Dubsado, how to get up and running with Dubsado. What's the best way to leverage this for my business? So with that, Joey, I'm going to hand things over to you to walk us through a bit of a demo. And Taylor, Carrie, anybody that joins us, please feel free to drop notes, questions, etc., in the chat, and we'll make sure that we address those as we go, or we'll do some Q&A right at the end.
Perfect. Thank you for the intro, Annie, and thank you to Taylor for joining us. I appreciate this opportunity to just kind of just shed light on, as a business owner, how you can think of using Dubsado for your business. So first and foremost, let me make sure that I'm spotlighting me. Can you see me now primarily on screen, Annie? Perfect. So let me go ahead, get my screen shared, and then I've got a couple of slides before we hop into the product itself. So as Annie mentioned, my name is Joey. I work here at Dubsado in the onboarding team. And the purpose of today's exclusive demo is to really kind of shed light on, what is Dubsado first and foremost? Who was it purpose built for? And how can you, for the most part, use Dubsado as an all-in-one system to automate your client experience, deliver a really polished experience altogether? But for the most part, and most importantly, as you're looking to scale and evolve in different ways, make sure to limit as much time as possible as far as repetitive admin labor. So if you're self-assessing, like what does your current process look like? In a lot of ways, we found that the universal truth for all business owners is you started your business to do the work that you love, not to drown in the admin around it. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today speaks towards that concept of giving you the time and the space to really get back to why you started your business to begin with, while also having some other time to focus on things that are not business related, having Dubsado do a lot of that heavy lifting. So what we have typically found is that when your client process is held together manually, something is inevitably going to slip. So think like a follow-up that you forgot to send out, an onboarding process maybe that felt a little bit rushed. Maybe there's an invoice that's sitting in your outbox that you forgot to send. And then maybe you're in the process of chasing clients for different things that you need them to sign or fill out or pay for in all kinds of ways. I want to make sure to call out it is not a you problem, it is very much a systems problem. So just to call it out, Dubsado specifically is a business management software that was purpose-built for small creative service businesses. So this is very much thought of as like an all-in-one platform to capture and convert leads, which we'll talk about, send proposals, contracts, invoices. Very excited to dig into that. We're going to talk a lot about automating your process and just kind of taking a lot of the things that you are already doing manually completely off of your plate. And then for the most part, probably most importantly, anything that is already a part of your client experience, anything that lands in your client's inbox, your ability to deliver on that in the most polished, cohesive way without sweating all the admin labor on the back end. So very excited to dig in. I did want to provide a really cool example of one of the amazing business owners that we've had the chance to get to know over the couple of years. Her name is Tracy Jasmine. She is a business coach. And prior to using Dubsado, when she was looking to scale, she was dealing with a decent amount of overwhelm. A lot of manual processes were being done repetitively. So, rebuilding proposals, editing contracts for all sorts of client detail, sending the same types of client communications. Mind you, this is all from scratch, all using just kind of piecemeal softwares to make it all work. Now, after she really started to develop and build out her Dubsado account, it really freed her up in so many ways to scale in a way that felt sustainable. So she first and foremost got a lot of her own personal time back. The kind of hidden costs of being a solo entrepreneur sometimes is that you were caught in the minutia of check-ins, reminders, updates, welcome emails, all those types of things take so much time that we don't necessarily budget our time for on a day-to-day basis. This will really allow you to unlock that. Most significantly, though, as far as business growth, she was actually able to take on more clients without adding additional hours. And what's really neat about it is that when you have this kind of very polished client experience from top to bottom, you can raise your rates and your clients are very much accepting of that. This is something that Tracy specifically had done where she noticed like, hey, I'm able to deliver a very luxe client experience. So the way that that translates to my brand awareness and my company identity, it attracted higher ticket clients all the same. So we have a direct quote before we move on. She said, my clients have felt seen and heard and supported throughout the entire client experience. That is all through Dubsado. I saw somewhere here, Dubsado has a schedule for client calls. Yes, absolutely, Taylor, and we will absolutely go over that. So fundamentally speaking, before we hop into Dubsado, take a look at all the bits and pieces. When your systems are solid, everything changes. You show up to client calls with confidence. You don't have to really second guess, when something was sent, if it was sent, where to find it, etc. Your clients really feel the difference when from the moment they inquire all the way up until final payment and beyond, everything is cohesive and on time and branded. And for the most part, as a business owner, as a human on this earth that has all kinds of interests, friends, families, you have the room to take on more. You have the capacity and the bandwidth to focus on the core of your work, dedicate time to your friends and loved ones outside of work, while still scaling your business in a way that feels completely sustainable. So that is, for the most part, what running your business on Dubsado feels like. So really quickly, I'm going to actually pop out of my PowerPoint deck and open up what is kind of the entry point into Dubsado. Again, when we're thinking about Dubsado as an all-in-one tool that will automate and service the entire client experience. So think from the moment you get a brand new inquiry, let's say on your website, all the way up until final payment and beyond, all of those bits and pieces in between can be handled in one singular place. And the entry point for that is what we call a lead capture form. So this lead capture is for the most part like this initial contact page where if a brand new prospect is looking to make an inquiry with your business, they'll fill this out, they'll submit it, and two things will happen. You'll get an email notification to let you know, hey, you've got a new lead that arrived. And most significantly, all those details that they just submitted on this lead capture form will be used to create a project automatically inside of your Dubsado account. So if you do have a branded website that you put a lot of time and design work into, we're really just looking to replicate this and embed our version in place of your existing contact form. But it's also something that you can share the direct link to in quite literally any other way. So think like text, email, DM, link trees, business profiles, socials, all of that. It does not matter whatsoever. If somebody is able to find this form as a prospect, fill it out and submit it, Dubsado will always accommodate them and create a project folder inside of your account. Now, I just wanted to talk about this first because this is sort of what kickstarts the journey of managing your client in a singular place. Now, tapping into the projects page specifically within my Dubsado demo account, we're going to talk in a couple of minutes here about what the project looks like. But for the most part, that project folder you can think of as a digital file folder for all things pertaining to that inquiry. We've purposely kind of organized things in this way. So from the moment the project is created, everything is captured and has a home that it lives and breathes inside of. So whenever you're logging into Dubsado for the day, you just need to kind of determine like, who am I speaking with? Who do I need to nurture? What do I need to prioritize? If I simply go straight to the project, I can find anything and do everything that I need to there. More on that in a minute or two. What I did want to kind of quickly narrow in on is the concept of using this projects page. Now, what's really neat about the projects page is this is, if I was to call out, very much like your central hub. This is your command center for really understanding, like, hey, of all the folks that I'm actively speaking to in some way, all the leads that I'm nurturing, vetting, verifying, all the clients that I'm actually servicing, et cetera. Where is everyone in the mix? What does my general book of business look like? How can I understand what to prioritize and so on? So a couple really fundamental ways that you can do that. First and foremost is using what we call project statuses. You'll find here that each one of these columns are titled with what I would call a project status. So contract signed, deposit paid, paid in full, offboarding. Project statuses are your way of recreating your pipeline, your client journey, your timeline, whatever you might call it. Think of a project status as like a milestone or a stage of progress. And it's meant to kind of give you clarity of all the people that you're actively talking to. Where does everyone sit? How intent are they on booking? And how can I, for the most part, push as many projects as possible deeper into my pipeline so they have a higher likelihood of converting? So that is very much how you can control and understand what is on your plate and how you can prioritize your day-to-day efforts. Really quickly, before we dive into all sorts of cool features, I wanted to open up an example of a project folder so I can show you more intently, what it entails and how you can think about using it. Again, this entire project was automatically created as soon as that lead capture was filled out. And every project folder will look the exact same. In this case, there's just going to be different based on the inquiry and the client associated. So on the left-hand side, I've got all kinds of project details, date ranges, time frames, locations if applicable, statuses, tags, client information. Most significantly, though, are all of these tabs up top. So I have a messages hub, which is all of the email communication that we've exchanged from the moment they've inquired, any invoices that I've generated, more on that later, forms that I've generated, so much more on that later. I just want you to know and understand, like, hey, whenever I'm working in Dubsado, I don't need to look in too many different places. The only thing I need to determine is who do I need to work with? What inquiry is this regarding? If I simply go straight to the project, I can do and see and evolve everything there. So beyond understanding like how to work with projects, how things are organized in general. A fundamental piece of using Dubsado is very much the concept of template building. So we're going to discuss all different types of templates today, but the general use of templates, especially as a solo entrepreneur or business owner, is to make things first and foremost plug and play if you are doing things manually, but the end destination that we would hope everyone can take advantage of is to use those templates as source material to automate so many different parts of your process that you currently feel is entirely too time consuming, redundant, any kind of admin labor that just feels like pulling teeth doing over and over again. This is where the template building and using those templates in all sorts of ways really comes into play. Very self-explanatory, but very, very useful creating your library of email templates. So especially if you have like a pretty refined process, any email that you've sent to more than one prospect or client, it is worthy of creating an email template. Think like welcome emails, check-ins, reminders, updates, anything to that effect. Having your library of email templates is very important. And there's an entire library of what we call form templates that I want to walk everyone through today. The kind of general rule here is anything that you are already using in your business process that requires somebody to sign or fill out something, those are perfect candidates to create as Dubsado form templates. I want to absolutely take a little bit of time to just walk you through each one very quickly. Now, we actually already took a look at one of the form templates being that lead capture page. As we already know, that is kind of responsible for kickstarting the process, creating the project in general. But I do want to make sure that I call out, we have a fully e-signature compliant contract software, similar to DocuSign, similar to HelloSign. We can fundamentally replace your need for any kind of standalone contract tool. What that means is whatever device your client accesses your contract on, they can legally and digitally sign on, even if it's their iPhone. And then on our end of the spectrum, we make sure to track everything that is needed to maintain compliance. So in this case, first name, last name, signature, date, time, and then most significantly, the IP address. Now, apart from that primary contract on file, it is also worth noting we have a sub-agreement. Sub-agreement is very much like a catch-all legal document for all things that are not your primary agreement. So throughout the course of working with a client, think like amendments, addendums, waivers, NDAs. If any folks here are in design, you can use this for proofing, which is a great way to just kind of gut check, hey, here's the direction that we're headed in. If you have feedback, let me know. If we're good to move forward, sign at the bottom and we can move forward. So contracts, sub-agreements, both of those inherently have that e-signature field. I'm going to show an example of a contract in just a bit, by the way. And one of the most robust forms you can use is a questionnaire. What I really, really like about questionnaires is that anytime the main goal is to gather detailed, nuanced, specific info. So think like maybe you're vetting client information, maybe you work in events and there's all sorts of event day details to gather. We have people that also use this for testimonial requests or feedback surveys. Whenever the goal is to capture detailed info, use a questionnaire. You can be very, very intentional about which questions are required, which questions are optional, what is the best question format to extract the most valuable info, etc. So numerous ways you can use a questionnaire, just depending on what you're already doing in your process. Now, I purposely saved this for last, and I feel like Annie might have already even spotted this earlier on, but if I was to consistently rank the most popular feature, let alone form, it is the proposal. The proposal in so many ways unlocks your ability to give your clients the keys to almost convert themselves. So what's really neat about proposals, in this case, I want to show everyone what it looks like on the client end, is think of a proposal as a digital shopping cart, an order sheet, a brochure, if you will, where it will allow your clients to select and quantify the services that they intend to purchase. So the example that you're seeing here on my screen is imagine for a moment you sent this to a client. In the body of an email, there's a button that said web design proposal. So all they did up until this point is click on the button and it takes them to this tab in their browser. So I want to show everyone this is a fully filled out proposal with the most popular thing to add here being that you can actually choose to attach the contract and the invoice directly to it. So before I show everyone here, imagine for a moment we're walking through like a very real world example where it's like, hey, 3 weeks ago, I got a brand new inquiry on my website. 2 weeks ago, we had a discovery call. Last week, they sent over all the remaining details we needed to move forward. So now we're kind of in this place where all that is left for the client to do is very much convert. So by attaching the contract and the invoice directly to the proposal, you're giving your prospects the keys to convert themselves. As we'll see here in a second or two, they'll first and foremost choose what they want, then they'll sign the contract, and then they will pay the invoice. Now, what the proposal at a fundamental level is responsible for doing is every single item selected on the proposal that is used to build out the invoice directly. So every line item on the invoice that we'll see in just a moment here is directly sourced from whatever the client actually chose. So for example, in this case, I've got like a starter package, $1,500 select button, premier package, $3,000 select button. And then it looks like the client chose the elite package, and then they chose 1 month of monthly website maintenance. What's neat about this is as soon as they make their selections, it will show them the subtotal at the bottom so they can verify, is this what I intended? Am I okay to move forward? If they click that submit and next button, it will route them over to the contract. And one of the things that I wanted to briefly mention here is noticing those client-specific details. If you're currently in a place where you have to edit your contracts for every single client engagement for basic and specific things, right? So like first name, last name, email address, but also very, very like pointed things like scope of work, invoice total, payment arrangement. All of these items that have populated here on the contract have done so automatically using a tool we have called Smart Fields. So smart fields are responsible for populating client information for you with the information that was already gathered in the project. So even if you are sending contracts manually, you can take your contract template, you can load it into a project, and all of the details that you typically have to spend some amount of time editing in will simply automatically populate wherever you put one of those smart fields. So in this case, they initialed because we put some initial fields there. And then this is what the electronic signature looks like at the bottom. And then as a final step, once they sign and submit, this is the exact invoice that was generated from that proposal based on the client selection. We've got the $5,000 elite package. We've got $250 of monthly website maintenance. In this case, I did want to point out that we integrate with a couple of different processors, Stripe, Square, and PayPal. In my particular demo account, I have Stripe connected. So I wanted to quickly show you if you do have a processor connected, namely the three that we mentioned, this is what it looks like when the Pay Now button is clicked. Mind you, you can turn on or off gratuity depending on what's standard in your industry. But fundamentally, with using Stripe, you can have them pay via card. You can have them pay directly from their bank account, which is inherently very cost saving as far as transaction fees are concerned. And one of the really neat things here too is just for a little bit more payment flexibility, there is the ability to pay via Klarna or Affirm. Now, one of the bigger things that I wanted to call out here is the concept of applying a payment plan. For most service-based businesses, like unless you've told the client ahead of time, like, hey, I'm going to need you to pay the full sum up front, there's usually some kind of like payment installment breakdown. So in this case, by applying a payment plan to an invoice, you very explicitly let the client know, like, hey, yes, the overall total is 5250. You can pay that in full if you would like. However, I have broken down very explicitly into three equal installments. Here's the due date, here's the payment amount, here's the pay now button. So proposals are a fantastic way to not only have the invoice automatically created, but when you choose to couple that proposal with a contract in an invoice, it is such a streamlined experience and it gives clients, especially if they're very high intent, high energy, the ability to know like, hey, I just sealed the deal. I can move forward and work with you as a business owner. So proposals most definitely consistently rank within the top two or three features that are used across the board. Now, one of the other invoice related things that I wanted to quickly call out is the concept of recurring invoices. So thus far, we've kind of talked about like arriving at a project fee and then perhaps breaking it down into equal payments, things like that. What I love about recurring invoices specifically is that there are generally such a large group of business owners that have retainer-based services or subscription-like services. So let's say you are a business coach and you're not breaking down an overall total, but you're simply saying like, hey, I have a monthly retainer of $350. Using recurring invoices in the same way that my Netflix bill would deduct 20 bucks a month from my bank account or my credit card, you can have that same cadence here where whether you're billing weekly or monthly or quarterly or whatever the cadence is, you can set up recurring invoices to send every cycle. And the best part is you can turn on and you can require auto pay. So in the truest sense of the word, like somebody's utility bill or mortgage or Netflix account, so your services as a business owner can be auto deducted from somebody's bank account or card on file without having to chase payment every cycle. So I wanted to quickly shout that out in case there are business owners here that have those subscription-like retainer-based services. Now, the next thing that I really wanted to point to, and this is actually something that Taylor had brought up a little bit ago, is the concept of scheduling. Now, if you have ever, just to call it out, if you've ever heard of Calendly or Acuity, or if you've ever used that, maybe you're in a place where you just generally want a really easy, low lift way for clients to put time on your calendar. We have a fully dynamic in-house scheduling tool that works in the same exact way that something like Calendly does. It syncs with your calendar to make sure your availability is accurate. You can control all the parameters, right? So what is required when the client is booking? Is it a paid session? Is it free? Do they need to fill out a form or sign something? Um, is it a virtual meeting that is hosted on Google Meet or Zoom, or is it in person? You have full ability to kind of custom control for every type of meeting that a prospect or a client can book. You can create as a scheduler template and offer them a really easy way to put time on your plate without coordinating the back and forth in an email thread. So really quickly, I wanted to just show everyone what an example of a, for example, virtual discovery call scheduler looks like. Imagine for a moment you have like a custom greeting that you can put there. You can control the overall color scheme. And then based on the settings and the parameters that you've put forth, clients are able to book, enter in all their details, receive a confirmation email so they know how to join the meeting. One quick thing before we move on from scheduling is time zone conversions, especially if you're a business owner that works virtually with clients around the world or country. It will automatically convert your time zone. So, let's say Annie's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. If she books for a 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time meeting, it's going to register by default on my calendar as 9:30 a.m. because we're here in Pacific time. So, thankfully, no time zone conversion math. I'm terrible at math, and knowing I don't have to do any of that just makes me feel a lot better. So do know that, especially for all those folks that work with clients in different parts of the world. Now, speaking of working with clients, we talked a lot from the outset about your client experience. We're going to get to sort of automating that in different ways, but one of the things you can absolutely consider doing, apart from sending deliverables directly within an email, especially if you work with clients through a longer engagement period. So think like coaches, maybe you work in events, people are booking your services more than 8 months out, 12 months out. One of the really neat things that you can offer to your clients that is no additional cost to you is creating and sending them access to a client portal. This now becomes their hub for accessing anything and everything that you've exchanged with them over time. Not only is the portal like a really great way to have like an additional layer of your branding, but do know that you can even put the login to your client portal on something like your website. And you can simply make it known like, hey, if you are currently working with me, if you've worked with me in the past, you can simply go to my website, log into your client portal using your credentials, and everything we've exchanged from the moment you've inquired is found here. So you can customize the banner, the welcome message, your logo. The home tab shows you everything, right? So the invoices, forms they need to complete, anything that requires client action is going to be directly on the home tab. The projects tab will show everything regardless of its status. Appointments you've set with them, invoices you've sent, documents regardless of whether they've been filled out or not. But it also can become a bit of a repository for external resources. Here's where you can share a PDF, a Google Drive link, a link to a YouTube resource. Whatever the case is, you can use this also for making other things that are not even Dubsado created easier to access. One of the things that I always like pointing out, and it's sometimes a little bit funny to talk about it in this way, but if you've worked with someone for, let's say, 8 or 12 months, sometimes it's really tough for you to ask them to recall an email you sent them 6, 7 months ago. So instead of asking them to kind of dig through their inbox and find whatever it is needed, you can let them know, like, hey, because you have a client portal available, from the moment you reached out to me, every single email thread we've exchanged is found here. You don't have to look in too many different places. So something really wonderful to consider as like an additional layer of your probably already stellar client experience. So I do know that the client portal is useful in all sorts of applications, but it is especially useful if you're someone that has those longer engagement periods. Now, the last thing, the kind of shiny end game scenario for all business owners that we would envision you to use on some level is the concept of using flow automation. So, we talked about scheduling templates, email templates, form templates, things like that. Your ability to create your library of those templates will give you the opportunity to fully utilize flow automation. Flow automation is simply you telling the system, here is what my current process is manually. What you'll do is you can tell the system very, very specifically, do every single part of my onboarding and servicing process for me. And all you're doing here is you're choosing actions, and every single action you tell the system to perform, there is a corresponding trigger that makes sure it's sent at the most appropriate time. And what's really neat about this is you can take a flow like this and you can attach it to that lead capture form. If you can recall when in the very, very beginning, that lead capture form is like the initial contact page. So as soon as that is filled out, if you have a flow attached to it, not only will the project be created, not only will you get an email notification to let you know that a new lead arrived, but the very first step of your process that you would typically send manually, let's say it's a welcome email, a thank you email, a link to book a discovery call, that can happen automatically. And as the client takes additional steps to further progress in your pipeline, you can make sure that the very next thing is queued up automatically. So notice here, one of the actions that I've told this particular flow to perform is to send my proposal. What's really nice about this, and what really makes flow automation shine, is the ability to use what is called relative triggers. So examples of this are things like after an appointment is booked, after an appointment is end, after a contract is signed, after a form is filled out, after a deposit is paid. So once again, especially for those clients that are speeding through your onboarding, that are high intent, they know they want to work with you, two things. One, they can get everything they need in the accurate amount of time, but you don't have to do it manually. So if they speed through your process, if they fill out a form, they can get the contract. If they sign the contract, they can get the invoice. If they pay the invoice, they can get their client portal login. So however your current process looks like, we talked very intently about how to use the concept of templates, working inside of those projects, and sort of automating as much of your admin labor as possible. We talked a lot about like the origin stories of business owners and how, the end goal is to do meaningful work, do the work that you love, but oftentimes the admin labor is the kind of sunken cost, that hidden cost that you don't always account for on a day-to-day basis. So anything that feels redundant, anything that feels time consuming or cumbersome in any way, chances are there is a way to absolutely offload that by using flow automation. Um, Before we kind of head into Q&A, I realize we have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to quickly mention a couple of things. If you do not have a Dubsado trial account, you're absolutely welcome to create one. We have a free 21-day trial with full access. If you do choose to subscribe, be sure to use Power Table. We can go ahead and type it into the chat here to get 35% off your first month or year. But most importantly, I want you to feel that if you take the journey of creating a Dubsado account, really kind of putting things together, testing and discovering how it applies to your specific business needs, more than anything, truly, I want you to feel like you have all the guidance, all the resources and tools at your disposal. So really quickly, I wanted to show everyone that we have a live resources page. And most specifically, I'll go ahead and wait for this to load. In the process of your account build out, we have a beginner workshop and an advanced workshop that really take you through every single nook and cranny of account setup. The beginner workshop more specifically talks about customizing your workspace, essential settings, essential building blocks that we would recommend you to tackle. So it puts you in the best possible scenario to kind of test and evaluate, really understand how Dubsado applies to you. The advanced workshop specifically, just to call it out, only goes over two features, but those two features happen to be the most powerful ones. Scheduling, which we talked about the concept of like using scheduler templates. And then we spent a really good amount of time on flow automation, which is you kind of saying, hey, I put some labor into my account. I built out a few templates. Now I am fully ready to take our existing manual process and translate that into a set of steps that is entirely done for me. Again, the end goal is we want you to really feel like you can sustainably grow your business. You can intake however many clients and know that each one of those leads are nurtured properly and in a timely fashion to sort of unlock your ability to focus on friends, family, most significantly, the part of your business that you love doing, the reason why you started your business to begin with. So, um, for the folks that are attending live, for the folks that will watch the recording of this, I want to say thank you for your time. You can email me directly, as a matter of fact. It's just joey@dubsado.com. If you needed to gut check anything, how does this fit? How does this apply to me? I can't attend a workshop. Can I get a recording? Whatever the context is, as you evaluate, what is the right tool to use for your business specifically, I want you to feel like you have all the info you need at your disposal so you can be as just informed and feel as completely ready to take the leap into using something like Dubsado. So thank you so much to everyone that is going to watch this, anyone that's joining now. With any remaining time, I want to kind of parse through the webinar chat. Make sure
Yeah.
to flag any questions that we missed.
I can help with that, Joe, because there's some really good questions here. So Carrie asked
Cool.
the question, if the subscription does have an end date and the
Yeah.
client decides to extend the engagement, can the
Mhm.
dates be changed on it to create a new end date, or would they have to re-sign?
So what's really nice and thankfully timely as far as where Dubsado is at now is in a previous state of recurring invoices, if you do have those subscription-like bills, that would have been a point of contention where you do need to end that recurrence, spin up a new one. With recurring invoices in the way that it works now, thankfully you can do that. Even while a recurrence is in flight, you can extend an end date, make a tweak to the payment amount, anything like that. Even if after they've started to get those automated bills, you can do that as needed. So,
Awesome. All right. And then I know Taylor had a great question here about can a subscription be ongoing without a set end date?
yes, absolutely. So, especially if it's just kind of like, as you mentioned, an undisclosed amount of time, hopefully forever. If you do have those retainer clients that just plan on keeping you around for all sorts of cool reasons, know that you don't need to establish an end date whatsoever. Yeah.
Awesome. You know, one of the questions that I was fielding in the chat as well is around access for a client to the client portal. And so I
Yeah.
know that one of the things that's so unique about Dubsado is that we don't require your
Yes.
client to set up another login and another password because goodness, if I have to set up one more password, I think I might lose my mind because it's just the hardest thing. So there are a whole variety of ways that clients can get access to the portal that does not require a unique email and password, but that still keeps it very secure. So that's something that's actually quite unique to Dubsado. A lot of other platforms don't do that. They do force an email and password login, but we know that that's the last thing we want to force our clients into. So it's a really, really great thing to keep that information secure, but let your clients access it immediately, which is killer. So, all right.
That is so
Yeah,
worth
Joey.
calling out.
Yeah.
Specifically with what Annie said, just to build on that, with other tools that are similar to Dubsado, not to name any of them specifically, but yeah, we did find that to be kind of a big point of contention where like just to access like a contract you sent via email, they need to remember a password or a login. So I did want to make sure to clarify exactly as Annie said, you are not in any way required to establish a password email login, especially if you're just sending things via email. Quite literally all they need to do is in the body of the email that they get, just to show everyone. They're clicking on a button, it opens up in a new tab. They can take whatever action is needed. It's very low lift, so there's no barrier to just getting what you need from the client. So yeah.
Awesome. 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 All right. Any other questions, folks? I think we had the chance to go through everything either as we were going. Joy was able to answer some, or a couple that I really wanted to make sure that you kind of addressed and did some show and tell for. I think some of the big things just to highlight and call out while we give everybody's brain a second for any last questions is client portal, absolutely no need to set up login and password. People can access it through a direct link that still keeps it very secure to them. And I think this idea and this concept of what are the areas of operations and admin in your business that you are continuously doing for every client?
Yeah.
And when there are those areas, that is absolutely the space to templatize, to find automation opportunities, to make sure that you're not doing them manually. But something that I put in chat that I always like to focus on is, you know, a lot of times service providers do have some need to customize. They might need to personalize the contract a little bit or their proposal a little bit. But more often than not, that customization slice is a small slice of everything that's foundational across the board. So if we could take that off your plate and you set it up once and it's there and ready for you, then you're using your brain on the stuff that actually deserves your brain, which is the little bit that does need that personalization. So that's really at the core what Dubsado does. So thank you all so much for joining us. Carrie, Taylor, really appreciate you both for being here. And anybody that gets the chance to see this recording, please reach out to us if you have any questions at all. We're such big fans of Power Table Live. We've seen the power of this community, and I've been deeply inspired by everything that you all are creating. And so just know Dubsado is here to help you on that journey. And if there's anything else that you need, Joey, Annie, we'd love to help you out and chat with you more. So with that, thank you all so much. We'll go ahead and wrap this one up, and we hope to hear from you all very soon with any follow-ups or questions that you've got. Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Take care.